It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? We do. From the Dixieline Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, where it's 112 degrees outside, we welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Better late than never, but when you don't have power, it's pretty hard. Heat, humidity, you name it, it's kind of knocks us for a loop. But we're here, and we're going to stay here till we get this show done. This podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores in San Diego, and the new one coming to Dana Point in Orange County. You got projects for the rest of the summer into the fall. We invite you to take your business to Dixieline Lumber. John Riley coming off a great sports weekend. We got pennant race fever, the opening of the NFL football season, college football in full gear, and it's 112 bleeping degrees outside. This is ridiculous.
When you rolled in here, you said that your eyes are about to pop out of the eye sockets from watching so much football.
Yeah, we got so much to cover. By the way, first things first, a couple of business items. You're all on social media. I know you are because I read all your stuff. I want you to join my Twitter all-star team on X. X marks the spot. I want you to become a follower. Just type in my handle name at Hacksaw1090 and then hit the follow button. That way, when I put something up on X, you're going to know about it. That being said, if you like sports, you should check my website. There's the address right at the top of the screen, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. I write on it every day. First thing in the morning as you have your cup of coffee, get all your sports updates on my website, my best 15 minutes in sports, Hacksaw's Headlines, and my one man's opinion column. That's on the website. You go to the website, there's a big orange box right there on the homepage. Fill it out. Get on our email list. Join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. You get all the unique things we make available to those who are part of the Insiders Group. And a reminder, when we're done with this podcast, we do what we call Fans Forum. If you've never participated, we want you to join us on this podcast. It's like Sports Talk Radio, the way we used to do it. The fans have a chance to join us. John Riley just described in brief, 25 words or less, how Fans Forum works.
25 words or less. Okay, so you got a question or comment for Lee in the world of sports? Drop your take in Facebook, X, or YouTube, and we'll get you involved in Hacksaw's Fans Forum.
Fans Forum comes up at the end of this podcast after we're done telling you about topics on the table. Pile on board. We got a lot to cover. We're going a lot of different directions. And I asked the question on Thursday as we were headed towards a great sports weekend, John Riley, are you ready for some football?
Yes. Ready for some football. We had Thursday night, Friday night, plus we had our Southern California teams play.
And, of course, we've got Monday night football still to come. Okay, these are topics on the table. If we hit a hot button involving your team, feel free to respond. Let's talk about the Rams. Rams went into a hostile situation in Detroit. They played really hard. They dug themselves out of a hole. They roared back, got the lead, but they ran out of gas late in the fourth quarter. They ran out of players into overtime, and the Rams lost to the Detroit Lions. I'll tell you, there's all kinds of storylines here. Matthew Stafford, in the face of unbelievable adversity, he lost virtually his entire offensive line in that game. A couple more guys went down with knee injuries, including Steve Avila, who's their top young offensive lineman with a strained knee. And yet Stafford kept them in it to get him into overtime. They never got the ball back in OT. He finished throwing for 317. Cooper Kupp, 14 receptions for 111 yards in the course of the game. And I just thought that they did a phenomenal job in the face of just enormous adversity. But Jared Goff running the ball in overtime, never gave up the ball. Rams never got on the field in overtime, and Detroit won that game. Tough loss for the Rams. The bigger story is what's going on with the injuries. They've just got significant O-line problems now, and I don't know how they're going to solve the offensive line problems there. And they lost Puka Nacua. He has re-injured the knee that knocked him out all of preseason, so he's gone. In addition to Tyler Higbee, the tight end on IR, in addition now to 4 offensive linemen who are hurt. So not a good Sunday, despite they played with great heart in Detroit. Let's talk about the Chargers, Raiders. That was ugly. Now, that was defense versus defense that made the game really ugly. These quarterbacks really struggled to get anything going. When in your lifetime did you ever think, with Justin Herbert as your starting quarterback, you would go 25 minutes in a game and it'd have one first down?
Yeah.
That's where the Chargers were during the course of the start there. But they just really struggled. And then their defense carried them. Their defense caused chaos to Gardner Minshew. By the time they were done, the Charger defense had kind of chokeholded the Raiders out of the stadium and into the parking lot. And then there was the reemergence of the running back, J.K. Dobbins, who did nothing in the first half. Boy, did he play well the second half. He had runs of 12, 46, and 63 that really broke the Raiders' back and broke their heart. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack were superb. I thought they did a great job defensively throughout the course of the entire game. I think the Chargers, not that they got lucky, they earned this win, and it was a dirty, ugly way to win, but they got it done with their defense. They're going to have to get obviously better offensively as they go to weekend number 2. Third team, Raiders. I'm kind of convinced you can't win with Gardner Minshew. That kind of pushed me over the top. I kept calling him the gunslinger because he would play with a chip on his shoulder and he'd make some plays. He'd also make some mistakes. Gardner Minshew threw a touchdown, had an interception, horrible fumble, took 4 quarterback sacks. I don't understand the play calling for the Raiders when you have a skill group led by Devontae Adams in the young first-round draft pick who came out of the University of Georgia, and you've got Jacoby Myers. When you've got 4 wideouts and tight ends who can catch the ball, why does it take you into the second quarter to start throwing the football down the field to Devontae Adams and to the tight ends? I was really disappointed in the Raider play calling. Raider defense really played hard, but time caught up with them. They kind of wilted in the fourth quarter of the game. So the Chargers post the victory, and the Raiders just keep on losing. They got a quarterback controversy. And the Raiders, by the way, have to leave here, West Coast, go there. They got to play at Baltimore in week 2.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, by next Sunday night, dudes could be 0-2 on the season. Third team there, Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, my goodness, that wasn't good. Justin Fields had to start because the calf flare-up that plagued the starting quarterback, Russell Wilson, resurfaced in practice on Friday. Justin Fields, they've worked so hard to teach him from a footwork mechanics standpoint to play under center because he came from a lifetime shotgun at Ohio State. They ran shotgun for him with Chicago Bears. They spent 7 weeks. And what do they do right out of the gate? Fumbled snap, penalties. He played really poorly to start that Steeler game in Atlanta. He wound up throwing for 158. He scrambled and ran for 50, but there were overthrows. He did not look comfortable in terms of footwork and mechanics. Russell Wilson, get healthy, because I just don't know that Pittsburgh can tolerate the ups and downs of what Justin Fields brings to the line of scrimmage. Fifth logo there, Houston Texans. When we did our NFL preview on Thursday, John and I laughed and talked. I kept saying, Houston has arrived. Damn right they have. I mean, it's just not C.J. Stroud, who had a great rookie season. It wasn't the 3 young wide receivers who grew up with him last year. Houston arrived because they imported veterans to surround the kids. Joe Mixon, who was asked to leave Cincinnati, runs for 159 in his first game in Houston. Nice. Stephon Diggs, who talked his way, tweeted his way, texted his way out of Buffalo, he catches 2 touchdown passes. C.J. Stroud throws for 234, and the defense plays really good defense. I think Houston is going to be a power in the AFC if they can keep everybody on the field. And now they got 2 vested veterans in Mixon, a tough guy running back, and Diggs, who can make big plays, to go with all the young guys and the young quarterback. So, John, out of the gate, that's just some of my theories about where the Rams are, where the Chargers are, what happened to the Raiders, what Pittsburgh's got to solve, what Houston's become. And John Riley says,
yeah, and we got a lot more teams to cover, but I'll tell you what, the Rams, Lions, I just love feeling that vibe in Ford Field. You know what I mean? The fans were excited. The Lions had arrived, and you knew the Rams were coming into a buzzsaw. But the part that caught me, it was the interview with Dan Campbell coming out of the second half locker room. He was saying how we know who that quarterback is, Stafford, and we can tell that he has the smarts to kind of figure out our defense, and he's making it hard on our defense. And so it's almost like the game within the game. Yep. that maybe, as some of people like myself that maybe didn't play football, just knowing the X and O's and seeing how those plays develop. I mean, Stafford must be at a whole other level.
Yeah, I mean, he was such a warrior, and those guys were going down around him nonstop. I mean, they ran out of offensive linemen in the second half of the game, and they got a problem because there's 16 more games to be played, and he's got 4 offensive linemen starters who aren't there for a wide variety of reasons, and losing Steve Avila, who was a high number 1 draft pick a year ago. Boy, that's a terrible blow. Your thoughts on the Bolts? I mean, that's a one-time performance on Sunday. Can they duplicate that, or were they just lucky they were playing against the Raiders?
Yeah, they're lucky playing the Raiders. But, the stadium was jam-packed, and it was Raider Nation showed up. I think you predicted 70% Chargers, 30% Raiders. Mm-hmm. Is that how it turned out?
I think it might have been more even, Steven, but at the end of the day, the Raider fans were pretty doggone loud. I saw videos of really bad fights in the stadium.
Oh, yeah.
Why would you pay all that money to get drunk before kickoff, get in a fight, and get your ass kicked?
Well, that's what some people go there for the Raider Charger game. When I had season tickets, I would go there just to watch that BS unfold.
And that BS is now on video. It's all on social media, too. Did you agree or disagree? I mean, you're in trouble with the gunslinger?
Yeah. We were saying sloppy gunslinger. Remember that pass he sort of threw backwards, sort of sloppy, didn't get his hands on the seams. I look at the Raiders, and when he started throwing to Brock Bowers, you were like, hey, this guy's pretty good. There's something to build off of. But for the longest time, Gardner Minshew, to me, seemed like the best backup NFL quarterback. Now when he's a starter, it's like you're saying, he's exposed. The Raider Nation has got to be like feeling like they're so close right now because the skill players are good.
Skill players are great. I don't know about the offensive front. He had people in his face the whole time. They couldn't protect him, which impacts the decision a quarterback has to make, and did not really run the football very consistently at all. Of course, Raider Nation, they don't know. They're drunk. What the hell's the difference?
Well, did you see the fight in the end zone amongst the players?
Yeah, which was kind of stupid, but they're yap.
Right.
And Harbaugh running on the field. That should have been a penalty flag. Harbaugh was running to the end zone trying to haul his guys out of there. League said today there are going to be fines for the guys who got ejected. There were some guys who might have thrown a punch. Nobody's going to get suspended there. Pittsburgh, can you play quarterback in Pittsburgh?
Well, I think as long as they have a good kicker, they're going to be able to put points on the board. I was just watching Justin Fields, and you understand why he struggled in Chicago. But when he rolls out and he's playing athletically, he's dynamic, and he's more accurate passing than if he's conservative under the snap or getting the shotgun.
I don't know what Pittsburgh's going to do with the situation because Russell Wilson's calf is barking again, and that doesn't solve itself within 1 week's time with therapy. Is Pittsburgh flexible enough to change their offense to play to Justin Fields' strength? Because they want to pound the ball, and they want that quarterback to stay in the pocket, and he just doesn't look comfortable whatsoever. And was I right? Was I right about the Houston Texans?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. These guys are on the come, and it's a weak division. Oh, one other comment, though, about Pittsburgh. Atlanta, you called them to win the NFC South, and they really struggled. And I was feeling like their pain. Like Kirk Cousins didn't look very good in that game.
Thank you, T.J. Watt. Thank you, Highsmith. Their linebackers were in his face the whole night. Offensive front didn't do a good job. Pittsburgh right now is living off defense, and they always do. But, of course, if T.J. Watt gets hurt, and injuries are a whole byproduct of everything Steeler related. If they lose any of those defensive guys, it won't be the same team. Okay, so if you like some of those teams, hey, Fans Forum chat box is open. Ask a question, make a statement based on that. Let's go to the next page, which has got more topics on the table. Miami, Tua, 338 yards passing. Tyreek Hill, when he's not being arrested by the police outside the stadium, he and Jalen Waddle combined for 15 catches, 239 yards, and the Miami Dolphins posted a victory over Jacksonville, which was really scrappy to hang in there and make it a close game. But Miami looks really, really good. And in terms of Tyreek Hill, the video that has surfaced of him being handcuffed, him lying face down on the pavement, and, then his post-game press conference, I don't understand what happened. I have to think about that. We know what happened because the Miami police today released details that he was ultra uncooperative when they stopped them for speeding in front of the stadium with all these people and citizens walking on the sidewalks, and he's flying down there in his Tesla. Tyreek lives in a different world. He wants us to analyze it. And he said, yeah, you wonder what would happen if I wasn't Tyreek Hill. Well, Miami police are going to wind up clearing themselves of this whole situation because they've kind of gone public with the details that Tyreek was really uncooperative with the police when he got stopped. Denver, Bo Nix, welcome to the NFL. He scuffled. He struggled. He got 2 picked, didn't throw any touchdowns, but this is week 1 NFL. And you didn't see this level of defense in the preseason when he was excelling. They're just going to work through his learning curve. But I tell you, it was really hostile. They raised the flag of the 12th man. Cam Chancellor, former Seahawks star, was the one who was atop the stadium raising the number 12 flag, which represents Seahawk fans. And they were all amped up because they were wearing their old Seahawk blue and silver, which really is cool compared to whatever they're wearing right now. So Bo Nix is facing not only the Seahawks, 11 players on defense, he was facing the fans in the stands, the 12th man. But there's a learning curve there. Tell you, the one's got to be concerned is the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson looked terrible. Deshaun Watson, 2 interceptions, 6 quarterback sacks because he didn't have a running game. And he's got wide receivers who couldn't get the ball to him. He wasn't accurate whatsoever. So the Browns got to be concerned. How's that $230 million a year package guaranteed working out?
It's working out great for him.
Yeah, for him. Nobody else in Cleveland. So Browns got to be a little bit worried about that. Chicago Bears, tough start. Caleb Williams, who had done a lot of dazzling stuff in preseason, now suddenly realizes when we get to opening day, that's a real pass rush that's coming at you. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to be able to run for him. You can't do reverse pivots because if you pivot away from one guy, you're going to turn and pivot right into the other guy coming at you. He only threw for 93 yards. Yeah, I think he was really frustrated. But like Bo Nix, it's a learning curve. It is a process. Green Bay. They hung in there with Philadelphia. Philadelphia looked really good. Saquon Barkley looked really good. Jalen Hurts throwing the football looked really good. Jordan Love rallied them and they kept them in the game, and then he got hurt. And to me, it looked fluke. He got twisted, got tackled down around the ankles and was going down, but he got hit and he got bent. And so he's got a strained knee ligament. And they are talking 3 to 6 to 8 weeks for Jordan Love. So he's on the sidelines in Green Bay. They're going to promote Malik Willis, the young quarterback they just got from Tennessee in the middle of training camp. They have made contact with the veteran Ryan Tannehill, the ex-Tennessee Titan star. They might bring him in for a physical and meeting. But to take a veteran quarterback, you can't plug him into a meeting room and say, here's the playbook. Be ready to be on the field tomorrow, Wednesday.
Hey, Baker Mayfield did it.
Sometimes not very well. They're going to talk to Ryan Tannehill. They may have to sign him. They do have the cap space to do that. So that's the next group of teams that we want you to join us in Fans Forum, and I'll let John Riley influence what you're going to write because he's got opinions on this stuff.
Well, for Miami, the game they won, and I know they had a big comeback, but the whole Tyreek Hill thing it's tricky. It's tricky. Because on one level, you don't want some Yahoo driving his fast car around pedestrians around the stadium. But then there's always, concern about there's race, there's police, there's a lot of other factors here. And some people jump to conclusions. So,
well, he pulls that card out of his pocket in a press conference after the game yesterday. He pulled the race card out.
Well, yeah. But if you're acting dangerously and being uncooperative, then so be it. But anyways, it's just a touchy thing to try to analyze. The funny thing, not funny, but interesting for me is for both Bo Nix and Caleb Williams with the Bears, they both struggled in week 1, and we were optimistic about them in the preseason. And then meanwhile, some of these old veterans that have been around for a while, like Sam Darnold, had a really good game. So it just goes to show you it's so hard to win as a rookie.
In the regular season. It's a very different game in the regular season rather than playing a preseason game in late July. I will tell you this, at the end of the day, quarterbacks need time. And one of the coaches in a post-game press conference, and I can't recall which one it was because I watched too much football yesterday. One of the coaches said, you do understand that Troy Aikman was 1-15 as a rookie?
I mean, that's a good response.
You do understand Peyton Manning was 3-13 and led the world in interceptions for a first-year quarterback forever. His name is still in the record book. You could go look it up. So a coach was responding to how hard it was for Bo Nix or for Caleb Williams by comparing them to the greatness of guys who really had bad starts on bad teams.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a tough assignment in the NFL. Jordan Love, you got to feel bad. That was just a horrible situation for them. So the Packers, their lights are dimming on week 1, just like the Jets last year.
Cleveland, I don't know if it's bad yet, but winter is coming in Cleveland. It might be bad early, though. If Deshaun Watson can't be the player he used to be in Houston, after all the money Jim Haslam gave him, the 3 draft picks they gave up, the guarantees that are locked in forever, he did not look anywhere near being the quarterback that they need him to be in Cleveland. So, boy, if they don't have vintage Deshaun Watson and they already don't have Nick Chubb, their heavy-duty back, it's going to be miserable. Up until winter comes in, it's going to get worse.
Yeah, it's brutal. I mean, I was watching NBC, and then, and the game ended. It went to our local NBC affiliate, and they have the 4 guys there, that do the post game. And they're great guys, but one of them made an interesting comment. And he said, it seemed like Justin Fields' brain still thought he had a young athletic body, but his body was not synchronized with the brain. And so when he would try to do something, the body was a split second slow and inaccurate.
Okay, that's unique rationalization.
But
when he tried to do it, he was doing it against NFL defenses, which he never saw at Ohio State.
And I think he hasn't played in like over a year or something. So, he's definitely rusty. He's got a lot of work to do to earn that paycheck.
We're looking for football fans. Fans Forum, jump into the chat box, ask a question, make a statement. Doesn't matter what team you root for. We cover it all. Okay, we go from that on Bonus Monday to college football. Oh, I got a lot to talk about in college football, John Riley.
That was a beatdown at the Big House, man, I'll tell you.
Oh, big-time beatdown at the Big House. We're, of course, making reference to what Texas did to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. I don't know when was the last time Wolverine fans booed their home team on the field in Ann Arbor, but they did this past weekend. They are not happy. And I guess the big question for Sherrone Moore, who's the head coach who replaced his honor Harbaugh, is how come you don't have a legitimate quarterback? That's a big issue because they really look substandard at the quarterback position. And obviously in the offensive front, they got guys who went to the NFL, because I really thought with Donovan Edwards back as a third-year part-time starter, they were going to pound the ball. He can't find any running space. So Michigan's got huge, huge problems there. They got trashed by Texas and Quinn Ewing, their star quarterback, who threw 3 more touchdown passes. So Michigan, how could you be Michigan and not have a quarterback in waiting to replace all the stars that you lost? Notre Dame. I don't think Marcus Freeman, Irish head coach, wants to look at his emails today. I don't think he wants to check his name on social media. The big question is, how the hell does Notre Dame, with all this talent, lose to one of those directional schools? Northern Illinois, DeKalb, Illinois, Huskies, Mid-American Conference. Man, did they rise up and did they play hard in South Bend? And being in South Bend, that's a tough place to play. 100,000 and all that. 2 pass interceptions, 2 block field goals. Hold on to win it. And they are questioning Marcus Freeman as head coach. Of course, they always question a head coach in South Bend.
Of course.
Marcus Freeman has now lost to Northern Illinois at home, 3-9 Stanford at home, and the Marshall Thundering Herd at home in his 3 years as head coach.
That's not good.
Not good at all. So that's a big issue there. I don't have the explanation for what's going on with the Oregon Ducks. They're going up and down the field, but they're not putting the ball in the end zone with their transfer quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, who's a big-time thrower. Something's not right for Dan Lenning's Ducks right now. They did beat Boise State. Last guy touches the football wins the game. Boise State kept coming back. And I'll tell you, Ashton Gentry, he might now be the best running back in the country, Boise State star tailback. I mean, he stampeded his way for another 100-plus yard rushing performance, and this is against big-time Oregon. So something's not right with the Ducks offensively right now. I mean, they did win 37-34, but they kept trailing in the game. They couldn't get off the field, and then they had to rally back and win, and that came after their first game against a Division I AA team, which is really stunning. So Oregon's got questions. Colorado, holy cow. Deion Sanders, has he got his hands full? I mean, he's getting smoked in the national media again. Colorado got stomped by Nebraska. Who? This is not Bob Devaney's Nebraska Cornhuskers, Frank Solich's Nebraska Cornhuskers. This is Nebraska, but down on their luck in the gutter, Nebraska. And they just beat the hell out of Colorado. Shedeur Sanders, 2 turnovers, 5 more quarterback sacks. His brother Shiloh Sanders probably gone for the year, broken forearm. Just not competitive at all. I mean, I looked up and that sucker was like, that was what, 28-3? I said, what the hell's going on in Colorado? And Deion, I don't know if he understands humble pie, but he better understand humble pie because this is the beginning of another long season. And since that great start last fall when they were 3-0 out of the gate, were must-see TV, since then, Deion and his friends are 2-9. Oh, wow. And it's a bad 2-9. So that's a tough situation there. And then we get to San Diego State, and it looked really bad. It wasn't that bad till about the final 7 minutes when they just flat ran out of gas defensively. Sean Lewis's offense is scuffling. They've done nothing of success in the first, second quarters of each of their games. It takes them time to get this thing kicked into gear, and the defense has kept them in games. And this defense played its guts out. I thought they were courageous, and they were on the field all night in 90-plus degree weather. But they died in the fourth quarter with their boots on. They gave up a 98-yard touchdown drive. They just could not get off the field. They gave up 420 yards. Offense had only 179 yards. Gave up 237 rushing. Most of that was in the second half. They were on the field for 41 minutes. Offense had the football for only 19. Danny O'Neal got dinged up, stayed in there in the game. Kid does complete. He fumbled at the 2-yard line, and what would have been a game-tying touchdown, and the whole chemistry of the game changed after that. So, I mean, I give the Aztecs kids credit. No quit. They played hard. But you can't ask your defense to be on the field for 79 snaps in 41 minutes in the game. So it's going to get harder because now they go to Cal, and the Cal Golden Bears are off to a 2-0 start. And Cal won at Jordan-Hare Stadium, Alabama, in Auburn. Cal won.
That's amazing.
You're damn right. There'd be another word we could use, but we wouldn't want to get in trouble here. So this is going to be a tough start for San Diego State. But that being said, if they can keep their kids on the field, I have seen enough flashes offensively that makes me believe San Diego State is going to do really well offensively in the Mountain West. And we have now seen 2 tough guy performances, junkyard dog defensive performances by those kids on the defensive side of the football who plan and never quitting against adversity for San Diego State. So get through this weekend at Cal. Schedule will even out. They'll start playing their own people. I think they're going to be dangerous before this thing is done, but they got stampeded by Oregon State. I mean, they got bullied by Oregon State.
Yeah, I mean, that was something.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, just a quick comments on each of these. That Michigan game, I mean, obviously Michigan was very disappointing, but Texas to come rolling into Michigan, that's a huge win for the Aggies. And they had Longhorns, pardon me, my bad. I knew I was saying that wrong.
You'll be getting emails now, I'll guarantee you that.
You're probably right. But it was a huge win for them, and they come rolling. They were number 3, and they had Matthew McConaughey with them, so that whole thing was fun. Notre Dame, man, I don't know what the hell to say about that. I mean, Northern Illinois, where is that school? It must be pretty close to South Bend and Chicago and all that.
South Chicago. I spent the coldest winter of my life one weekend doing a basketball game at DeKalb, Illinois. That's where Northern Illinois is. It is out there in the prairies. It's cold as hell. But they get kids. They get Big Ten kids that bounce back. But for them to win at South Bend, holy cow.
That's not just like their Super Bowl. That's like all-time, moment for that university. So good for them. Oregon, I'm not commenting so much on Oregon. I'm just happy that Boise State was super competitive.
Sure.
So it's nice to see the group of 5 schools do well. Yeah, Colorado was a disaster. Shedeur Sanders was overwhelmed. I mean, that was an insane game. It was just like there was nothing there for Colorado. and the Aztecs, boy, I missed the kickoff because we were out to dinner with family. Get back, it's 7-0. The Aztecs have the ball and they're driving. And I'm like, hey, right on. If they could tie this thing 7-7, this could be a pretty interesting game. And then the fumble happened near the end zone when they were just about to score. It was disappointing, but I agree with you. The defense was flying everywhere. They were ferocious, and there you can see glimpses in the offense. But Marquez Cooper, he didn't get the ball all that much, did he?
He got bottled up and they couldn't run the ball. And they've got some skill wide receivers that I think once we get into the Mountain West Conference, they're going to move the ball up and down the field. They've got this wide receiver came from Colorado State, Lewis Brown. He's the one that had the big touchdown catch. He had another big catch on Saturday. They need to target some of these big play guys a lot earlier. But I've been impressed with Danny O'Neal for an 18-year-old freshman at this level. He's very accurate. Tell you what, he's got some grit to him because he stands in there and he takes some shots and he scrambles, is going to get hit, and he makes plays, and he's just composed. I've been very impressed for him. And I asked Sean Lewis at his Monday press conference, have you ever started a quarterback this young? He said, never had an 18-year-old starter. So this kid's got a bright future if they can keep him upright and he doesn't get hurt. But, once we get beyond this weekend's game with the Cal Golden Bears, the schedule will even out, and then they start playing their own people. They got to go to Central Michigan, which won't be easy. And obviously then they come back and they kick into gear the Mountain West Conference. Boise, the Fresnos, both have got obviously quarterbacks and running backs. So I think they're going to do okay at the Mountain West level.
Just thinking about it, remember about 20 years ago, the Aztecs played Cal, because they're going to do this week, and the Aztecs beat them. And remember, the Cal quarterback was really angry, and he was calling them San Diego frickin' State Aztecs. He was really angry about the whole thing because it was such an upset. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Who was that quarterback? I don't know. I don't think he went on played in the NFL, but I think he was a decent QB.
Well, they were running some kind of gimmick and gadget offense, and they're throwing for a lot of yards and all that. It was kind of pseudo run and shoot or West Coast offense, and the Aztecs just punched him in the mouth. And what's that old favorite phrase? You can have a great plan until you get punched in the mouth. And Cal never recovered from that.
That's Mike Tyson, isn't it?
Okay. So anyhow, that's where we are as it relates to football. You saw some of the topics we're talking about. You're into college football. Want you in the chat box. Fans Forum is open. Please join us now. We get to halftime this Monday bonus podcast. Next, we are going to talk baseball. Next, we're going to talk news and notes around the NBA, some college athletic notes, and hockey hotline will be open too. This podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers. 9 store locations to serve you. You've got projects at home, whether it's in the family room, in the bedroom, renovate the kitchen, do something different in the bathroom, or outside on the deck, the patio, next to the pool. You got projects. These are your best friends, Dixieline Lumber. As we go to the second half, just a reminder, X marks the spot. Looking for you to join my Twitter all-star team. Just go to X, type in my slug line, @Hacksaw1090, become a follower. Also, want you to check my website. I write on it every day. Prime example of the volume of information I make available on my website. Go to today's website page and just check out the best 15 minutes in sports. You won't believe how much information there is for you. When you're on the website, there's a big orange box on the homepage. Fill it out, become part of Hacksaw's Insiders group. Want you to share, want you to subscribe. You subscribe, you'll get a notification, an alert every time we put something up on our YouTube channel, and we do that quite often. And when we're done, John Riley's segment takes over. John Riley's Crazy Fans Takeover. It's called Fans Forum.
Fans Forum. Yeah, your chance to get involved. We already got some guys piling in. We got 4RXLA and Chris and Jason and Callan. And so if you want to get involved, especially if you're a first timer, just type your comments in Facebook, X, or Twitter, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
On we go to the second half of the show. We're going to talk baseball, pennant races, out of town scoreboard, news and notes, John.
News and notes. Okay, here we go. Padres, Giants. Padres, Dodgers. It was a rough go for the Padres over the weekend.
Yeah, there's got to be some concern right now in the inner sanctum of the Padres because it's been a grind of a baseball season. You know, everybody's got 3 weeks left. Everybody's got 20 to 25 games left on the schedule. Dylan Cease has not been the same starting pitcher since the no-hitter. John, his last 6 games, he's thrown 33 innings, 22 runs, 31 hits, 12 bases on balls, and the home run ball has reappeared. He put a lot of guys on base in his last 6 starts. Joe Musgrove was cruising. This is amazing. He would buzz through the first 3 innings against the Giants, got 9 in a row, and then got lit up in the 4th inning. 7 straight hits San Francisco had in the Sunday game, and he gave up 3 home runs along the way. He says he's not having physical problems. He stayed in the game and obviously continued to pitch, but not good. And I'm bothered by how many times Mike Schilt picks up the phone and goes to the bullpen and asks for Robert Suarez. I just don't think you can ask a guy who throws 100 miles an hour to pitch 5 times in 7 games. And that's what they did with Robert Suarez. And, of course, he fell apart over the weekend, too. They do have a safety valve. I don't know if he's ready. Matt Waldron has only pitched twice at El Paso. He pitched, I think, 4 1/3 innings in his last start, gave up, I think, 4 runs along the way. They may need to bring him back here just to give him a little bit of a break. So, you know, the Padres now go on the road, and they're playing a team that's in desperation mode. Seattle is fighting for its damn playoff life. With all the money and all the player acquisitions Jerry Dipoto has made, they've just really scuffled. So the Padres will start Yu Darvish Tuesday up in Seattle against the Mariners' pretty competitive pitching staff. So it's going to be a big challenge there. So, John, you saw what I saw on the weekend. What's your spin of where the Padres are? Are you concerned about Cease and Musgrove?
Yeah, I am concerned, and because Atlanta and the Mets are winning. And so that gap has closed a lot in the last few days. But to your point about Cease, you're right. He's not the same as he was. So, it makes you wonder about the wear and tear. The Musgrove deal, we saw him in the early part of the season before he got hurt, where he had a few of those innings that were uncharacteristic of him, and he would just blow up. Padre Twitter was convinced that he must have somehow been tipping off his pitches because they were hitting that first pitch and driving it and getting those home runs.
Maybe they were aggressive. Maybe they were guessing right that he's going to throw a fastball first pitch to try to get ahead, so they teed off on when they viewed it as being a fastball. And it wasn't helped that, Tatis had some problems in right field with the sun. And, that elongated the inning. But, for Joe to give up 3 bombs in 1 inning, that's not vintage Joe Musgrove. But he says, I have no health issues. This is not an elbow situation resurfacing. So we got to trust him there. Dodgers. It's staggering. Every time you breathe a breath, somebody else is going on the disabled list at Dodger Stadium. Now they've put their top young pitcher, hit 11-game winner, Gavin Stone. He goes on the DL.
Unbelievable.
They now have had 11 starting pitchers this season alone on the disabled list. 18 pitchers in all of the Dodgers have been on the DL. We're looking at a really bad situation. Yash Yamamoto, who made 2 starts but didn't throw a lot of innings, he's back, and he is going to start in the rotation for Dodger baseball, I think as early as Tuesday. Tyler Glasnow has been out over a month and has just started throwing off the mound. They don't even know if they have enough time to really amp him up to get him ready for postseason play. Granted, the Dodgers have a 6-game lead over the Padres, so they're going to be in the playoffs. But what is the quality of health of their starting pitching by the time they get to postseason? Dodgers are 6 up on San Diego, 6.5 up on Arizona. Now, in the wild card race, the Padres' lead over Arizona is back down to 0.5, and the lead over the Mets in Atlanta is just 2 with 3 weeks to go.
Yeah, it's tight.
I'm not hanging any black crepe paper here, but the Padres better be careful because they need to find a way to get hot. Now they're going back on the road to play some teams in desperate straits, trying to save their own playoff hopes, starting with Seattle. I'd hate to say the Padres might not win a wild card spot here, but that's an issue. Ha-Seong Kim, by the way, I think is going to the disabled list. He cannot throw across the infield. So I don't think he's anywhere near ready to play, so they may put him on the DL retroactive to when they get hurt and just continue to rehab and the therapy, which means it brings somebody else up, and maybe that somebody else is going to be another pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, it might turn out to be a good deal. I mean, you don't want to see Ha-Seong Kim get hurt, but put Bogarts at short, Cronenworth at second, put Solano or Arise at first, and suddenly that could be a much better hitting team. But you have to like the way the Padres clawed back from a 6-0 deficit when everything went to hell in the fourth inning. That was positive. The Dodgers, to me, it's shocking, and Dodger fan is still angry at Dave Roberts. I mean, they should be praising Dave Roberts for holding this thing together with duct tape and baling wire like MacGyver.
I mean, I can't believe how many numbers of pitchers they've got on the disabled list. I mean, it's ungodly.
Yeah, what's
gone on in terms of how many pitchers they have lost, and they're still in first place. By the way, sidebar comment. Shohei, how about Ohtani pushing to get 50-50? And they think legitimately he can do it. I think the Dodgers, if I counted correctly, have got 19 games left. Can Ohtani get to 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases by the time we get to the 19 games on the schedule?
I think he will, and I think he's going to go for it, and I think the fans are going to encourage him. I mean, I remember when Canseco went 40-40, and we were all blown away by that. At 50-50, this guy is superhuman, and he can throw the ball over 100 miles an hour.
And by the way, speaking of that, Ohtani in private workout sessions has been throwing off the mound and in the bullpen. Just as part of his rehab, coming back from the elbow surgery, they have shut that down. Not because of physical woes. They have shut it down. All they want him to do is concentrate on preparation to be the designated hitter and not worry about anything else.
They could sure use him as a pitcher on that staff.
That's not going to happen. That's baseball. You're a Padre fan. You're a Dodger fan. Hey, we got slots open here in Fans Forum. I don't care where you're watching us on live stream. Jump on board there. Different topic on the table. This is about the NBA.
Yeah, Shaquille O'Neal kind of getting a little trouble.
Oh, nice headline. Bitter big man. Shaquille O'Neal's got opinions on everything. And Shaq has kind of blown his lid. Money has ruined the NBA and the NBA players. Shaquille O'Neal says, quote, the dream team is not good for the NBA. He's been very critical of TNT. He's been very critical of the NBA's new media contract with streaming and Amazon. And then he went after Rudy Gobert, the Minnesota Timberwolves starting center. And Shaq said, you're paid a $250 million man. Why don't you ever play like a $250 million man? Shaq ripping the Minnesota Timberwolves center as not being gritty, not being tough, not willing to do all the dirty things that an NBA big man has to do, and yet he makes $250 million. And I think Shaq is just bothered by the fact that everybody's making all these mega contracts, and not all these guys are stars. So you tell me, Shaq full of crap, or Shaq got a right to stand up and say what Shaq believes the NBA's evolved into?
Well, I like Shaq speaking his mind. I mean, I want more of that, but obviously there's more revenue in the sport, than when he played. I mean, he was active, 20 years ago,
sure,
maybe 15 years ago. So the sport has evolved. There's more revenue. The players are enjoying the fruits of all of that. Usually veterans are kind of happy and they congratulate the young kids for all the opportunity because, it's all built on the shoulders of the guys before. So Shaq, keep spouting off your opinion. You make good copy here for people like you and I. But it's just the nature of the sport, and it's happening in every sport.
Shaq has become the big man's version of Sir Charles Barkley.
Well, I think maybe he's trying to do that. Push buttons. It works for Barkley.
On we go from that. You're an NBA fan. As money ruined the National Basketball Association, Fans Forum chat box is open. This is not good news for the Mountain West Conference. The Pac-12, what's left of it is now the Pac-2, Oregon State, Washington State, had an alliance this year with the Mountain West Conference to help them with football scheduling after the breakup of the Pac-12. Well, it was supposed to be a 2-year deal. It's only going to be a 1-year deal. Pac-12 this year paid the Mountain West $15 million as kind of an alliance fee so that Oregon State, Washington State could each schedule 6 games against Mountain West teams. That's why Oregon State was here. That's why Washington State's coming here to play San Diego State. Pac-12 is now concerned because they want to have enough quality on their schedule so that Oregon State, Washington State, if they have banner seasons, will be considered for the college football playoffs. And they don't think they can have strength of schedule if they're playing the Air Forces and Colorado States of the world. So what they're doing is this will be the only year of the Pac-12 Mountain West Alliance. It's actually the Pac-2. What's going to happen next year is Oregon State, Washington State, they're already making calls. They're going to try to schedule Big 12 teams and try to schedule teams from the AAC, the American Athletic Conference, and maybe the ACC. So they think they'd be better served than playing Fresno State or San Diego State by playing maybe Oklahoma State or going to play somebody from the Atlantic Coast Conference. Reaction?
Well, I understand their point, but that doesn't bode well for the merger of these two conferences, does it?
I don't think one's got anything to do with the other, because when the TV contracts in the Mountain West expire after 2025, they'll all be free agents. And then I think you'll see the Pac-2 make overtures to take a group from the Mountain West and take them and merge them with them. But they're not going to take the whole conference. They're not taking San Jose State and some of these other people.
Well, I think this year, I think they're hopeful that, that those teams can be competitive, right? I mean, I'm just thinking in my head, none of them are ranked, Oregon State or Washington State, but Oregon was, but that's obviously not applicable here. But it makes sense strategically. It's kind of like what Brian Dutcher is going through with the Aztec basketball program.
Yeah. Again, Mountain West Conference has now mandated that everybody in their conference in basketball is going to play 20 conference games, 10 home, 10 road. The whining immediately from the Union Tribune about, oh, we got to travel to Wyoming and Fort Collins in the winter. Well, everybody does. But Brian Dutcher's response, and he kind of beefed about this publicly, is that by making us play 20 in conference, that takes away some of the dates that we could use November, December to schedule a marquee team, to go to the Maui Classic or to go in one of these other pre-tournaments before Christmas and build our resume by playing some named guys. Well, at the end of the day, if San Diego State has to play 20, then what they need to do is not play Point Loma Nazarene and not play San Diego Christian College. Use those dates to go try to find home and home with marquee teams, big-time teams out of the Big East or the ACC, and work it that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, because those numbers of those games against the Cupcakes have lessened those,
sure.
And they cost the Aztecs money too, by the way. But you still like to see the local series with UCSD, or maybe they go back to playing USD. But yeah, the math doesn't add up. But doesn't the Mountain West Conference and the teams in the conference, they benefit when the Aztecs do well in the NCAA tournament?
Oh yeah, they all get NCAA units or cuts of playoff money. Brian Dutcher's thing is, if we don't have the chance to build our resume, then our ability to be a higher seed team, if we win 21 games, goes down less because we don't play as tough a schedule. Well, then get rid of some of the cupcakes that you're playing here. You don't need to be a nice guy. You don't need guaranteed 115 to 61 wins against substandard teams. Just use those dates to go play the University of Houston home and home if you can swing it, or get yourself into another tournament.
Yeah, I like that call. But it's tricky with the Mountain West. They're not quite a big boy, but they don't want to admit that they're a little boy.
And they don't want to take on all the little boys along the way because it doesn't think it help them.
Exactly.
Okay, we go from that. Last topic, hockey hotline is open. What an emotional day this is.
Yeah, Johnny Gaudreau, people are still mourning the loss.
Funeral service early afternoon today in Media, Pennsylvania, just outside Philadelphia. A cavalcade of NHL players from everywhere showed up. Former Calgary Flames teammates, his late Columbus Blue Jackets teammates and players who loved him from the New Jersey Devils, the Philadelphia Flyers, the Penguins, the Rangers were all at the funeral in Media, Pennsylvania. Amongst those who spoke was his close friend, kid he broke into in Calgary, Sean Monahan, and the speeches were just moving, saying there is a bond in the NHL that has now been cemented by Johnny Hockey's passing. And, we'll see you in our eternity. I saw the video of the vigils outside the arena in Calgary. 7,000 people showed up. And the video outside the Columbus Blue Jackets arena, like it was Thursday, Friday of last week, it was amazing. And of course, the NHL and Boston College started a GoFundMe campaign. They raised $560,000 in the first 8 hours for Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau's widows and their kids. And I don't know what the total is now, but I bet it's probably cracked $1 million. NHL players poured into the GoFundMe thing.
Wow.
With checks. So cool story, sad story, very emotional. I saw the video this morning of what was going on in Philadelphia with that. Other topic in hockey, Anaheim Ducks. They just cannot get out from under the cloud cover of bad news. They have lost their number 1 draft pick, Beckett Seneca. He was a kid drafted out of Ontario, scored 37 goals last season, fractured foot in off-season training, is going to miss at least 8 weeks. They've lost their top young goaltender who was going to be the starter here with the San Diego Gulls, gone for the year. Kid from Czechia, Tomas Suchanek, had a 2.92 goals against average as a raw rookie with the Gulls. He's gone, torn knee ligament. I told you this a week ago. I told you I didn't like it a week ago. Now it's official. I don't like it. Chase DeLeo, their captain, not offered a contract by the Ducks. I asked why. Chase DeLeo is signed to go play in the Continental Hockey League in Russia. Oscar Dansk, veteran goaltender, been with the Vegas Golden Knights, been with Calgary, just got signed by the Ducks. He's going to be the starter, one of the starters down here with the loss of Suchanek. He's a pretty good AHL player. And the Ducks are shopping. This is hard for me to believe. One of their captains, Cam Fowler, he's got $6.5 million left on the next 2 years of his contract. He's their only veteran defenseman. They put him on the trading block too. They've got all this young stockpile of talent. They all force-fed him last year. They had a 50-loss season. If you trade Cam Fowler, how are you going to get better? Don't you need some veterans to stabilize all the good young kids around you? So, but it looks like Pat Verbeek's going to make another player deal that I have to put a question mark next to in terms of the product on the ice. And again, that all impacts the product on the ice down here with the San Diego Gulls. So wish I had better news about the Gulls right now, but I don't. But losing Seneca and then losing the young goaltender Suchanek, wow, big setbacks.
Well, do you think the Ducks or any other team in the NHL cares about the win-loss record of their AHL team?
They could argue with me, and I do understand the argument. The Gulls are here to develop players for the big club. Right. I understand that theory. However, if you put a bad product on the ice on a consistent basis down here, you erode your fan base. The Gulls haven't been in the playoffs in 3 years, and they've got 50 lost seasons, almost back to back. And what we're looking at now is an even younger team because the Ducks did not re-sign the top 6 veteran players from the Gulls roster last year. You have to have veterans to stabilize is always going to be a young AHL roster. Do they care? Sure. They care about the development of the kids to get them from here to Anaheim. But you know what? If you wreck the product down here, and then the product down here doesn't draw fans, where they used to draw 11 and 12,000, drawing 4,000, that's not good. It's not good for the local franchisee. So there's got to be a common bond here that, yeah, we're here to take your number 1 picks and grow them so they can play in the NHL, but you got to take care of us and get us some veteran players. I mean, the fact that they let 6 guys go, including their captain. I mean, they let DeLeo go. They let Agostino go. They let Glenn Gaudin go. They had 3 veteran defensemen who were up and down. They let them go. I mean, it's going to be an unbelievably young team. And Pat Verbeek has taken all the young players that he drafted, and they haven't started down here. They just put them in the NHL, and they learned on the job, yes, but it also is a 50-loss season. Poor Ducks fans up there. So, tell you what, I would not want to live in the 714 area code right now because you got Angel Baseball here, which is really bad, and you got Ducks hockey here, which haven't been very good either. And I respect them, and I understand. You raise a great question, John, about what's the responsibility of us in San Diego is to develop the kids, but you got to help us develop the kids.
Yeah.
And the Ducks are paying the bills. I understand that they pay for everybody down, the whole operation. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, you want a good product on the ice here. And I'll tell you what, in the American Hockey League, the elite team is the Hershey Bears. Been there for a long time. We're so far away from being a Hershey Bears quality AHL franchise. God, when's that going to change? Okay, I'm off my pedestal. John, you can stand up and talk.
Well, the question, and let's go back to this scenario because, okay, imagine if the Ducks, continue on this path. They struggle at the NHL level and they bring all the, they displace the veterans and what they have left here in San Diego. Let's just assume that it's a poor quality product. And let's further assume worst case scenario, the fans don't show up. Now, if the local franchise owner of the San Diego Gulls was taking a loss, literally losing money to open up the doors, would the Ducks subsidize him? Or how?
Well, the Ducks are subsidizing everything. The Ducks, in a sense, own the San Diego Gulls. All their employees are Gulls salaried employees.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, exactly. But my theory is, and I hated to say this, and I was going to write a column on it, but to me, it's too early to ever write anything. Is this the right team to have a working relationship with? Because it worked well early, and it hasn't worked well late. And San Diego Gulls fans, you'll have to tell me about the product that you're watching on the ice at the sports arena right now, because I'm really disappointed. And there's a lot of good people here, good coach, good general manager, good front office employees, but the products haven't been very good. So where do you draw the line for the Ducks? Don't you have to do something here to give us quality to make this product better? I mean, because when they first came in the league, they were averaging what the Hershey Bears were averaging. At one point, the Gulls were first or second in attendance in the A, and now they're down to 4,000 a game by virtue of what the product on the ice is delivered.
I wonder if there's any linkage, maybe this is conspiracy theory, but the fact that the sports arena is going to go away for a period of time, in a few years. And where would the Gulls play? I mean, would they have to play up at the Pond in LA or something like that?
Well, during the COVID year, we had that 2-year window. The Gulls actually played up in Anaheim at the practice facility with no fans. It was the weirdest scenario. I don't know if it really helped them on ice, although they trained with the big clubs. But that's far-fetched. Every NHL team, according to the bylaws, has to have an American Hockey League team. So if I raise the question, are the Ducks the right team to have this relationship with any longer, considering what they put on the ice here? Is that valid? But you didn't have to go find somebody to be your parent club if it's not going to be Anaheim. Geographically, it makes great sense. Just like the LA Kings are in Ontario with the Ontario Reign, and their product has been a little bit more consistent than the product down here. It's not like Coachella Valley outside of Palm Springs, where Seattle has given them, the Seattle Kraken have given them 2 first-place teams 2 years in a row in the A.
Nice, yeah.
So
good for those guys.
That's the kind of relationship you need to have.
Oh, yeah.
But not there. Okay, it is time for Fans Forum. We got any viewers on this Monday bonus podcast? Hell, I thought we'd just be storming with people with opinions based on what you saw with the NFL. You want to talk about the baseball pennant races, etc. This podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores to serve you in San Diego. John Riley, your turn. You and your pals take this over.
Yeah. I think what's interesting, before we get these folks involved, we had a little trouble when we clicked the go live button here today. I don't know if you noticed it, but we didn't log into Twitter right away. And so I think that's playing a role here when you're looking at some of the numbers. But at any rate, let's go here to Callan. And Callan says, afternoon, gentlemen. Hope you're staying cool. What a beautiful tribute to Gaudreau this past week. Love seeing hockey community come together during such a difficult time.
Oh, and if you saw the video of what happened outside the Calgary Saddle Dome and the video what happened outside of Columbus's Nationwide Arena, when they sang Amazing Grace, the fans, 7,000 fans in Calgary, sang Amazing Grace. Wow. It was really something. And I just saw a short clip of the memorial service outside Philadelphia today. So, Callum, Johnny Hockey's smile is what I think we'll all remember. But boy, what a tough blow for Columbus, and obviously tough blow for the National Hockey League.
Again, you get choked up during these moments, because you're passionate about
experiencing it.
Yeah, but at any rate, what I enjoyed seeing, and this is kind of a weird way to say enjoy, but is to see the community come together.
Sure.
Not just the fans, but the players in the league. And it just makes you realize sports is something that we follow as fans. There's obviously a whole business aspect to it, but it has deep cultural meaning to people in their personal lives. And so when something like this happens, like when Kobe crashed into the helicopter or when we lost Muhammad Ali, these are big moments.
Yeah, very much so. And you balance it because we cover it and we talk about it and I write about it all the time. And here we are talking about the outpouring of the hockey community, both sides of the border, players, management, and to a degree the media. We're covering the Johnny Hockey story, and we have to cover Tyreek Hill and all the crap that he's involved in. And the stuff that he's involved in off the field, it's pretty tawdry. So we have to cover it all, but the Johnny Hockey story is special. Next one.
Well, at least we're not talking about Trevor Bauer. So let's go here to Jason. LA is a joke and should not have a team. All visiting teams have way more fans than the home teams. Chargers have not had a home game since they were stolen from San Diego. Hashtag Spanos Devil.
Well, I concur with you to a degree. I don't know what the final breakdown was of Raider fan versus Charger fan, but I think there was awful lot of silver and black in the stands. Now, the Rams are different. I mean, the Rams have been to the Super Bowl twice under Sean McVay. That's pretty doggone impressive. Chargers have not gotten there. Is it a good NFL city? Well, we're in a massive major market. But I will tell you, the Chargers just are not the attraction nor the draw that the Dodgers are, or that the Lakers are, or maybe the Clippers have become when the Clippers thought they were going to be an NBA Finals team. Chargers are just not at that point. Now, maybe it'll change. Maybe the arrival of Harbaugh and the linkage with Justin Herbert and the changes that Joe Ortiz has made are going to make them an AFC powerhouse before the season is done. But at the end of the day, the Chargers are on the periphery while you got the Dodgers and you got the Lakers here emotionally. And, of course, those two franchises have been in L.A. forever.
Yeah, it's interesting, though. Don't you sometimes wonder what's the saturation point? And you compare it to, say, like New York, and, sure, they've got multiple football and baseball teams and hockey and everything else and basketball, but they don't have big-time college sports in the New York City metropolitan area. And you go to Chicago, and, there's Notre Dame and Northwestern, but that's not anywhere near the same level. So you've got, like, 10 teams maybe that are all fighting for relevancy in LA.
Yeah. But that's a big marketplace. It's a volume marketplace.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
Yeah. All right, next question.
Okay, let's go to Chris. I'm here to show you my bleeping lightning bolt. What an abysmal offensive performance. 2 first downs midway through the third quarter and still win by double digits. The Raiders are an absolute joke. Joe Alt made Crosby look like an SDSU backup lineman. Bleeping bleak indeed.
Well, I thought the Chargers offensive front played pretty well. Joe Alt really held up against Max Crosby. The Raiders played really well defensively, and I said last Thursday when we did the preview, big acquisition, Christian Wilkins, and he made that defensive front violent inside. The Chargers could not run the football, and what he did with Crosby through 3 quarters, but they eventually ran out of gas, and the Charger defense played really well. Raiders have issues in the offensive front. I think the Raiders got a quarterback issue now that they need to consider Aiden O'Connell just being the starting quarterback as they go to Baltimore next weekend. I just don't think Minshew can play well enough not to make mistakes that kill him. He made mistakes that killed him again yesterday. So it's only 1 week in the books. Chargers, the arrow looks pointed up. Raiders' arrow is still kind of down this way, and they got to solve some of those issues. I don't think they got a true legitimate quarterback, and in this league, you need a quarterback to win.
Yeah, I'm really worried about the Raiders, and Jimmy G isn't going to be the savior either. Jimmy G's the Rams, not the Raiders anymore. But anyways,
no, he's the 49ers.
Or the 49ers.
Yeah, Jimmy G is now with the 49ers. No, I'm sorry.
No, he's with the Rams.
He's with the Rams as a backup under suspension.
Yeah, I kept thinking about him with the but anyways.
This heat is driving me crazy.
Yeah,
my brain's not functioning.
We're melting. So one of the things about this game that surprised me, actually didn't surprise me, more confirmed what I already knew. Greg Olson is a good analyst. Yeah, and he really did a good job. And he was really pointing out the whole, Max Crosby versus Joe Alt and how many times they matched up one-on-one. And it was really good insight. Well, that leads me to a kind of a tangent. What's your take on Tom Brady week 1?
I didn't get to see much of it because I was watching the Charger game. So I didn't get to see the game of the week. I've only read just snippets here. The reaction. Some said he's got a lot of work to do. Some said, we don't feel he was comfortable enough with what his role was. Whereas Olson has got a year under his belt, and he's glib, and he's insightful. Not that he's critical. So I think Brady just has to find his way.
Yeah, he will, but he's going to still be treated like, the belle of the ball when he's in there in the media. But anyways, it was an exciting game. I mean, if you're a Charger fan, you got to be excited. There's still a lot of Charger fans in San Diego. I mean, it's amazing how many of my friends in town are on Facebook wearing their Charger gear. So there's people here, even in San Diego, that are happy to see that win.
Hey, a win is a win, and wins are tough to get. And they grew as the game went on. They played better. And now they go play Carolina, that's a miserable storyline. My God, the Carolina Panthers. Somebody wrote me an email today and said, Hacksaw, thank God there's not relegation in the NFL, because the Carolina Panthers would be out of the league. I mean, they look pitiful. And now they lost their top defensive player, defensive tackle Derek Brown. So I was thinking about this morning driving over. These are the guys who traded their top wide receiver, DJ Moore, to Chicago, traded Christian McCaffrey to San Francisco, and then they got rid of their defensive end, Brian Burns. He wound up with the New York Giants as a free agent. Now they lose Derek Brown, their star defensive tackle. That's their top 4 football players. Mm-hmm. And poor Bryce Young. It's like he doesn't have anybody to help around him.
So now imagine the Chargers win next week on the road, and the Raiders go on the road in Baltimore, and they lose. We could see the Chargers 2-0 and the Raiders 0-2.
You think Raider fan even noticed? They're normally drunk all the time, are they not? 0-2, but Raiders have to make a decision as to what they're going to do at quarterback. They got to get more competitive there, because they sure have fixed the defense. Now they got to fix that one. That's the most critical position in the NFL. Next question.
Okay, let's go to 4RXLA, and it's a two-parter here. This is all Raider talk. He says, the Raiders have big problems on offense, poor quarterback, poor offensive line, poor running back. Getsy is who we thought he was, lousy. Adams will be traded by the deadline. And then he goes on to say, there are sober Raider fans that aren't felons out there, but after 25 years of losing, our numbers are dwindling.
Oh, it's tough. I have a segment here. I'm going to do one of these. Maybe I'll do it on Thursday's show. Raiders have had 2 winning seasons in 21 years. 2.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. Raiders have not won a playoff game since 2002. That's even more unbelievable. And
holy crap.
Raider fan shows up in his costume, picking fights, being drunk, being Raider fan, and accepting the product on the field. How is that humanly possible? You could have 2 winning seasons since 2002 and still have any fan base at all.
Well, okay, here's my serious answer is I think for the Raider Nation, it's like a community. It's part of their identity, that represents who they are. And they're not going to abandon Raiders no matter what, because they're loyal, So when they get together for the ball game, even if the Raiders get their ass kicked, they're okay with it, because those are our guys.
I'm not going to pile on Raider fan, except to say last place, baby. Okay, we move on.
Okay, let's go here to Jason. He says, Robert Suarez has 1 pitch and every hitter knows it. He needs to be taken out of the reliever role. Tanner Scott is ready to take that role for the postseason.
I don't think I'd go that far. I just think they need to be more judicious, Jason, with how many times they're going to Tanner Scott. Tanner Scott pitched 4 games in a row a week or so ago. Jason Adam. He pitched 3 or 4 days in a 5-day window. Suarez pitched 5 times in 7 games. That to me is way too much use. It's granted you got a bullpen that's pretty strong, but the overuse has been detrimental just recently. So I hope that smart people in the Padre hierarchy will just reconsider how many times you pick up the phone and ask for one of those guys, because we need them over the last, I don't know, is it 19 or 21 days of the regular season, and you're definitely going to need him in postseason. So, but demote him? No, I'm not going to demote him, but I'd sure use him differently right now than he's being used. I mean, the fact that they asked Suarez they used him 5 times in 7 games, that's way too much.
It is, but they now have the expanded rosters.
Well, it's only by 2. Rosters only gone to 28.
So that's all.
No, the old rule, they go to 40.
Yeah.
Can't do that. No, it's only 28.
Really? Oh, because I thought we'd have a few more warm bodies around, that you can throw in on a lopsided game.
Well, they changed the rule because, Bruce Bochy was the man that really exposed all this. Mm-hmm. When they go to 40, he'd bring up all these pitchers. And then he got into the pitching changes. You get 1 batter. You're coming out. Then we got lefty versus lefty, righty versus righty. He go through 4 pitches in an inning. That led to the 3 batter rule. And then there was the theory, wait a minute, we're allowing all these teams to bring up 40, and they're throwing all these kids out here at the end of the season, and they're impacting the pennant race. You're the last place Blight Sox. And if we had a 40-man roster, you're bringing every guy out of AAA and maybe some out of AA, and you're throwing these kids out there in a game against the Yankees, which impacts then the Yankees' war with the Orioles for first place in the American League East. We can't do that. That's not fair to the teams to allow them to run all these rookies out there. So that's why 2 years ago, they went from, now we're not going to do 40. You can only add 2. You can only have 28 on your roster in the month of September, because we don't want you waving a white flag, looking at your prospects in the middle of a pennant race against games with teams that are fighting other teams for first place. That's a long answer as to why they changed it.
See, that's a really interesting story.
You're right. I am a smart guy. Thank you.
You do know everything, and the whole Bruce Bochy angle to it. But we had Hader here. Remember, Hader set strict rules on what he would do. But Robert Suarez has the big contracts. You figure every time the phone rings, he's answering.
That's him.
Right, that's him. But yeah, these dudes get worn out. Now, they brought back Alec Jacob, some of those 4A level guys, and he's kind of a unique pitcher. So hopefully they can find a way to win games more comfortably, so you don't need those high leverage guys.
Yeah, you can't have Morion pitching every day. You can't have Jacob pitching every day. There just has to be a better delineation of when we're going to the top 3 back of the bullpen guys. Because, like I say, you're asking Suarez to do it 5 times in 7 games. That's too much.
Well, the starters need to go 6, and then I think that solves a lot of problems.
On we go. Fans Forum continues.
Okay, on we go, and let's go here to Carlos. Carlos says, are the Chargers reaching the playoffs this year, and do you think our professional athletes overpaid?
No, because the salary structure in baseball, unlike the damn salary structure in sports talk radio, salary structure in baseball is all triggered by gross revenue, and that's how they determine the amount of money each team has for payroll. As the gross revenues go up, the amount of money in the payroll pot goes up for every club to spend. Now, whether they spend it or not, that's a whole different story. But the Stars are getting percentage increases because the gross revenue into the players' union pot has gone up by a certain percentage every year. So it's the same way in the NBA. It's the same way in the NHL. That's the way the NFL operates too.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's overpaid. I mean, if you
were a capitalist, you don't give a crap.
But if you have someone willing to pay you what you're getting paid, then you are worth that amount. Just by nature of having that contract for that amount of money, that proves that you're worth it. Now, people always say, well, how in the heck can we be paying these ball players millions of dollars, and teachers have to pay for their own school supplies, and that whole argument? You know what? Fans are willing to spend a ton of money to fuel this engine of sports. And so if you were to ratchet down the players' salaries, then where does all that extra money go?
It goes into the pocket of the owner.
Exactly. So I'd rather have it go in the pocket of the player. So in my opinion, get as much as you can, baby.
And the first topic was Chargers playoffs. Yes, we got a long way to go. We got 16 weeks to go. I want to see improvement in the running game. I want to see the wide receiver group grow, because it did not look great. Quentin Johnston makes a good catch, and then Quentin Johnston runs a wrong route and the ball's overthrown. So everybody's first week is kind of sketchy, and you're making improvement from week 1 to week 2 because regular season is so different than preseason. Most of these guys didn't play in preseason because you protect them from injuries. But yeah, I do believe the Chargers are a playoff team. Got to keep the quarterback standing.
Keep them standing. And it was interesting in the press conference, Harbaugh said, that time between week 1 and week 2 is when you can make the biggest leap forward in terms of, making adjustments to your mistakes for all those players than in any 1 week gap of the season. So yeah, I think if you're a Charger fan, you've got to be feeling optimistic about all this. And so hopefully they do make the playoffs. It's been a while.
Well, I think at the end of the day, you look at the roster upgrades and acquisitions, it's a different roster. I mean, they got rid of 23 veteran players. And we saw that defense yesterday play really rugged. And that inside defensive tackle group, they stopped the run completely. And that allowed Bosa and Khalil Mack to go for maybe a combined 4 sacks and tackles for losses, etc. So they've just got to continue to keep those guys on the field. And I think the product will get better. And the offensive front was good. 3 number 1 draft picks in that offensive line. And, they boxed and they contained Max Crosby, and they did a really good job stopping the Raider run. So go to Carolina, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Well, just for grins, how did our former Chargers like Eckler and Keenan Allen and all those guys that left, did they have good weekends?
Austin Eckler had 10 yards rushing.
Really?
No, I think he caught 6 balls out of the backfield in Washington. Jaden Daniels actually had a pretty decent first game for a rookie. Chicago, Caleb Williams had a lot of problems with the pass rush. Keenan Allen, I don't think, caught a lot of balls along the way. So the guys who are playing for new teams, just going to take them time too. And again, those 2 teams I mentioned are playing raw rookies. So those rookies are going through their own learning curve too.
Yeah. It's been a fun weekend to get started. And we've got the Niners tonight. Okay, let's go to social media. We got a couple of guys here involved, and let's talk about, there's a bunch of really good ones here. Let's start with Padres-Dodgers, and this is from Brett. He says, I doubt they'll catch the Dodgers. You talk about the Padres. I doubt the Padres will catch the Dodgers, and they should hope for another series via the wild card against LA, in which they bring a stellar game and great focus to beat the juggernaut. That is why baseball can be so exciting. If you could just get in, you never know how we'll do. But once you enter the postseason, it's entirely about how you are playing during the playoffs.
It's interesting because one of the guys that is at the workout center that I go when I do rehab on my back, I talk to him all the time, and we're just talking about Dodgers, Padres, rivalry, etc. And I said, well, the last 6 games, San Diego at Arizona, San Diego at Dodger Stadium, are going to be challenging. And I said, the most important thing is to get to the playoffs. The other thing, the intangible thing, is get home field advantage. First round or second round playoffs, home field advantage is kind of important.
Yeah.
But that being said, his response to me, well, I just read what you wrote about the Padres having the second best record in all of baseball on the road. So that's not really an important thing. I thought to myself, smart guy. He's a smart guy because he reads all the stuff I write on my website. But yeah, Padres have the second best record in Major League Baseball. So even if they have to go on the road in the playoffs with this lineup and with this pitching staff and with this deep bullpen in a short series, I'm not intimidated. Somebody else going on the road, having to play all their playoff games on the road because they were the last one in, the wild card, could be in trouble. So he raised a good point.
Yeah, I'm not so worried about being on the road, but I would have loved, and there's still a chance that they could win the division, although it's out of reach almost now.
Well, the Dodgers still have a bunch of games against the Rocks and the Marlins.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then, they're probably not going to win the division, but imagine if they did, then they would get potentially a first round bye. And I think the Padres could really benefit from that. And the Dodgers certainly will.
Well, a lot of people beefing the buys last week kind of upset the rhythm of the guys that finished in first place. They didn't get to play for 5 days.
Yeah, but I think that's a BS excuse. I mean, you'll take the bye anytime to
point,
kind of rest your players, of course.
I agree with it. We move on. Next social media sound off.
Okay, let's go to do a little Chargers Raiders. And this guy was getting on your case about your preview of the Raider Charger game. He says, you must be a San Diego fan because you missed so many of our additions in Vegas. The Raiders are going to win by 6 points.
How did that work out? The Raiders upgraded themselves. There's no doubt. I think Christian Wilkins is an unbelievable acquisition, a defensive tackle. And there's no doubt what they did by virtue of the draft, getting the tight end this year, Brock Bowers, and the tight end a year ago, Michael Mayers. Zamir White, the running back, has to prove to me that he can be heavy duty and not put the ball on the turf, as happened on Sunday. But they got a black hole at quarterback. The black hole has a black hole at quarterback. So, all I can know, born free, is you need to have sales pitch me who's going to be your starting quarterback that's credible. And right now, I don't think Gardner Minshew is the guy, and Aiden O'Connell played adequate to manage the games at the end of last season. But I don't know you want to have him for 17 games, and he's going to lead you to great times. I don't know about that.
Well, I think Aiden O'Connell just will make less mistakes, and he'll manage the game, and he's not going to win it on a superstar play. But remember, that's what they were talking about in the broadcast, is how the Chargers weren't making very many mistakes. So maybe they're going to have a quarterback controversy there with the Raiders, but geez, Raider fan, you should have seen the social media comments. They were confident that they were going to beat down the Chargers. It was going to be another 63-7 game. It didn't turn out that way.
The Charger players on Friday said, yeah, we got a bad taste in our mouth. Every time we think about those guys, we think about when it was 63-7 in the fourth quarter and Antonio Pierce left all their players in the game to run up the score. But the Chargers are a different team right now. It's a different culture right now, and we'll just see if they can continue this and stay free of injury. And from the Raiders standpoint, Stop drinking and stop fighting with people in the stands and solve the quarterback problem. Thank you very much.
Or don't be slipping the play-by-play guy a joint. Okay, let's. This is a fun comment here, and this is from Jim talking about. We started off talking about Juan Soto, but he was all talking about the sports talk radio. It says, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, please get back on the radio in San Diego. You would be number one in any time slot. San Diego sports talk radio is turned into a bucket of shit. Not one show or host worth listening to anymore. The clowns in the morning on 97.3 are garbage too. Please, Lee, we miss you. Get back on the radio.
Thank you for the compliment. Actually, the coach, John Quintera, and I have talked about what if we teamed up? But you got to have somebody that's willing to hire you and willing to pay you and willing to accept our style and our content. That has not happened yet. Not to say it wouldn't happen in the future. But at this point in time, just be happy you got the podcast. The best thing all you followers can do is you spread the word on social media. Hacksaw is back Mondays at 1 p.m., Thursdays at 1 p.m., and you need to join him because if you like the sports talk radio the way it should have been done, you'd surely like the podcast the way it is being done right now. So we need a network of fans to spread the word further about what we brought to live stream Mondays and Thursdays at 1 p.m.
That's the beauty of having a podcast is we're not limited by the size of the signal. You know, we even go further than the 77,000 watt blowtorch signal from Baja to the Canadian Rockies, right?
Yeah, but we're everywhere.
Yeah, and that's good.
And not only are we everywhere, if you're not with us on live stream, that's no problem because then you can view it whenever it's easy for you, be that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because it's always up on live stream.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people now moved out of California and then they respond on social media and says, oh my God, I used to listen to you when I was a kid, and brings back a lot of good memories.
So help us network our name, tell them where we are. That's the best thing you can do in addition to giving me a bunch of crap on Fans Forum. Go ahead, John.
Okay, let's get a Rams comment here. This is from Jaron. He says, every team has issues, but the Rams will win the NFC West 12-5.
They're really hurting. They are really hurting. They are now down 4 offensive linemen. With Steve Avila getting hurt last night in the middle of that game, and Stafford was so courageous, and he took so many hits, and they almost won that game in Detroit, but they could not hold on because they were running out of players, and they ran out of time on the clock. I don't know that they're going to win the division. Doggone division's pretty good. Let's be realistic here. We'll just see how quickly they can get some of these old linemen back. You know, the success they had a year ago in what was supposed to be a rebuild season was not only just based on the new acquisitions that Les Snead brought in, and draft-wise, they had a bunch that could really play, and they played all those kids. But the other intangible, they had no major injuries, none. And they never got into camp and got out of camp healthy. And now they had 3 guys go down last night in the Sunday night game with Detroit. So they got all kinds of physical problems. Big issue in the Rams.
Well, let's talk about the NFC West because it is going to be a tough division. The Niners, you figure, are 1. We had the Rams 2. And then who's going to be 3? Seahawks are kind of middle of the road, right? And then, of course, the Cardinals are at the bottom.
Yeah, don't tell that to Geno Smith. They played pretty well yesterday. And Seattle's got guys. I mean, they've got 3 wide receivers, and Seattle's got a couple of running backs. And then Seattle has quietly rebuilt their offensive front, and their defense has got all the young guys who are playing pretty well. So Seattle's going to be a bear, especially up there. I don't know how Seattle's going to do on the road. And is Geno Smith going to be vintage Geno Smith, which means he plays well here and then doesn't play well? I think they're better. That's why I think it's going to be a challenge for the Rams to hold on to second place because Seattle's coming. And I don't know what to make of Arizona. I mean, Arizona scared the hell out of Buffalo on the road in that first game with Kyler Murray and with James Conner, the running back. And so we'll see if they can do that over a 17-game schedule.
You know, Geno Smith's an interesting character because if you were to like stack rank the quarterbacks, you know, you have your elite ones at the top and then the very good. But for me, Geno Smith and Gardner Minshew are kind of close to each other in the rankings, don't you think?
You just didn't want to say he's ranked 24th, did you?
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah.
But we'll see. They signed him to a contract extension. I thought they're going to hit the eject button. But they kept them, so we'll just see what Geno does. Geno, I guess, can win some games. He can manage some games, but Geno doesn't have a track record doing anything to get your butt in the postseason in January.
Yeah, I think he's just the kind of guy that will not make mistakes and manage the team. And So we'll see.
Real good. Listen, we hope you have enjoyed our Monday podcast. We apologize for it being 112 degrees outside, which impacted our ability to link up and get everything done. We're going to be back here on Thursday. We'll be talking more pennant race baseball. We will also set the stage for what's coming for the next great sports weekend, weekend 2 of the National Football League, and we'll see what's going on in college football because that thing is ever-changing, ever-evolving. This podcast is always brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 9 stores to serve you in San Diego, regardless of what the project is, in home or at work. Think about these guys. They got the materials, and they got ideas for you. DIXIELINE Lumber. John, deep breath. I wish this damn hot weather would go away. I didn't sign up to live in 112-degree weather in San Diego. We'll see you come Thursday.
Well, you signed up for it when you lived in Phoenix. But
Yes.
Real quick question. How many yards does Aaron Rodgers throw here in game 1?
Oh, I think the Jets are going to be better than anybody realizes. San Francisco is San Francisco. I think Aaron probably throws for 250. I just don't know that they got enough firepower to keep up. But Christian McCaffrey's calf is barking at him again.
Mm-hmm.
And if he does not suit up and if he's not active for game 1, that could kind of change some things along the way. And the Jets defense is pretty rugged. It'll be a great Monday Night Football. And we'll see you come Thursday. And thanks for being with us. Hope you'll tell all your friends about Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.